the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well done. I have to make a note here. From now on, Graham never starts O Canada. Schultz, let me grab a glass. Jerome, you want to take over?
Well, if I can get my coat off.
Okay, take your coat off. I'll do the toast.
We needed you this.
Please join me in a toast to Canada. To the Queen. And to our tardy president. Please bow your heads. As we gather here today in fellowship and service, please help us remember those in our community and in fact worldwide who are much less fortunate than we are in terms of not only food but also shelter. And let us constantly remember them in the service that we do and do our best to help them perhaps reach the good fortune that we have. Amen. Amen. If you are a Rotarian and you brought a guest, please introduce him or her. That's a no. I know we've got our speaker today, Ernie Ginsler, is here. He'll be formally introduced later on in the dinner. So Ernie, because you're our only guest, we have a very special privilege for guests in our club. First let's welcome Ernie. And because you're our guest, you get to be first at the buffet. This way. I know that's when you say, I know you're busy. I've been in there. Yeah, I do have it right here. I think you're I said, right away, look at I'm beaten by myself.
Ernie's already picked a spot for somebody else. I wasn't happy. No, I had a client in my house. Hi, Ernie. I want to say hello here. Good to see you. Good to see you, Ernie. You have a guest speaker? How did you guys How are you? Good. You more morning. Yeah. 8 or 9. Yeah, we had a couple of hundred people.
I got it.
was the one.
One guy. My name's Matt.
I've never confused the ball wide and blue and blue. I enjoy that.
My grandfather was Matt. Younger version. The senior mother was
Closed in a couple of times. Put a dent in the 4 hours later.
No, trucks there every morning.
He said, we get this all the time. Daughter.
They won't put up today for sure. That's a little bit.
And almost had to go. Oh,
Walked away. When I think of
last week's the one player. He just gets extra out. He's coming over and he's like, yeah, it was amazing. He came over and like Justin found his amazing. We were a lot smaller than Justin was right there and he came over and he was saying high five and he's
The one was us.
Thanks. Yeah, one of the small producers that beginning. So that's it. I didn't. They used to represent. That's why I we're year over year. Actually, all the boxes I have a good friend and client. It's they were going to come down and see us. And things got switched around. And then he fell. Year over year, it's like they're
That's first class. And then we're gonna move Dad.
You got it. You got it.
Either a beautiful weekend or we'll give you some kind of.
48 minutes of well, Sunday's supposed to be the nicest day of the week.
Game starts at 7, usually won't win that.
But the weather can be drastically different.
It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Cheerleaders?
Mascot.
More concerned
Sometimes John Backman, even in the winter.
Yeah, they'll have that.
Because I tell you, people on the floor are one of the even in good weather, you can be doing 120 or 400, and people pass you.
Well, that would have been good.
Or they pass you and pull in front of you, leaving you. I thought
That's all. Kids is like, okay, I can't go there. I'd like to go. Why did I
It had a hard laid out.
It'd be nice to see the rink not full.
Just about, yeah.
one car.
John explained this.
That's a motivation. You have no problem if somebody told you whereas here, Angela Merkel. Have you ever major highway around very clearly marked with 4 miles, 5 miles of time.
Yeah.
You driving in China?
No, this is
Well, John, sometimes, believe it or not, when you first appeared, you can't understand where it came from. Not yet. Before Christmas. Parked our car in the driveway, my vehicle in the driveway. In the morning we came out, on the passenger side, front fence of the light, I walked by it all the time, so it wasn't there when we went to bed. It did. And it wasn't mechanically neat, because there was no scratch or anything, it was just a neat reason. Whether somebody came by with a big fist, or an elbow, or a boot. And we live along the washroom. And Karen says, you know, maybe somebody,
I think
because our dog had, like, maybe yapping. And so Karen says, you know, somebody just piss somebody off.
No, he's not. He's not retiring.
Going till 45. Those days. Yeah.
I'll give you $20 and retired before the beginning of the season.
Was it the fence?
Yeah, you can't come around.
We have witnesses here.
I'll remember there was a conversation.
And the funny thing is, if I put it through insurance, it's $1,600.
Oh, yeah, if you lose,
You'll do it for $600 if I give it cash.
No.
Lemon has a trivia.
Yeah, you got $500 deductible.
I bet on your one worse.
Oh, more than likely.
And it brought someone from
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to Saturday.
help me with all the scientific questions. Chris Pugh, horrible when you have to tell him. You got every science question wrong the whole
You know, when we have to schedule the time in my calendar. I guess it depends on how bad the winter gets to. Another 5 weeks. The winter's over. By this time, you're in March.
Yeah, anything Toronto's wonderful.
I guess you're waiting to get back up to the trailer too, right?
And that's just because I was raised, it was like drilled into my head. I love living in Toronto and just going down. He used to do a lot of
You fish a lot?
Games I've been to that I'm like, something gonna happen. I still love
Guerrero is not being. Guerrero and.
That's like you're carrying it on. I don't know if he's going to play this year.
You know,
Guerrero will, but he won't start.
we love the rain.
The way it is.
Karen really enjoys the title. It just seems like it's too much all at once.
Then he pushes his.
I wonder how I would react to that.
Probably won't start.
Saturday Martin though. Yeah, I thought he was entertaining.
Well, that's the good for block parties.
You really mean the catcher? Yeah.
He made me laugh. I thought he was entertaining.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
for me fairly busy.
I mean, I'll never forget the year where they had this one piece of how exciting. And that kid in here caught the ball.
I don't know.
Caught the ball and they were
So you've ever been with you? No.
home run or not, so I got like fans.
Let's go once.
He's living in Peru.
Yeah.
Under a rock.
Well, because, you know, all of a sudden they those are good seats. Well, yeah, they are good seats. And you know what? I know they're not. Edwin.
I was gonna attempt it.
No, I've never had on it. That's it. We've been on the floor.
Too many syllables. I was at the beginning of my body.
No way.
It's just like a rocker trying to get his total out.
So we're.
That backflip
Yeah.
was very legendary.
We're the first rule. It's the first rule of the rules.
That was an exciting year.
But you're up a little higher.
They had several players.
Yeah. Right, that
I
was,
can remember the first
we were all in.
president saved my vacation from lectures to work. You're ahead of time. You did make us all over.
Yes.
There are walnuts, I think. Protein. Got that? I'll make it 3. Look at you, Joe.
They're like that.
I won't eat my.
They go to
Vitamin D, is there? A, whatever it is.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
You read labels?
No.
Where you want to look at
Yeah.
No. He sounds like a label reader.
Would anyone like coffee? I usually opposite orders my vitamins, so you need more vitamin B.
What's the second? You could use committees, kind of like, you had to know that it wasn't going to make it work like that. Jerome.
Can hardly believe it here. A few minutes late, there's a coup already. The House President takes over. Thanks for helping out here, Ed.
We were having a presidential.
Thank you to whoever put up the banners. Thank you to Kathy for being our greeter today. She did greet me coming in just to make sure that I seen that. Excellent, thank you. Thanks to our master, our Sergeant at Arms and Assistant Sergeant at Arms for your work you've done today. I see, got to way down the agenda here. I guess I can save this invocation for next week. Announcements. Pick up right after lunch here. Announcements. Members' birthdays. Ian Robertson has a birthday on January 31st. There was no spouses' birthdays on the list, no anniversaries, but there's one club anniversary happening on February 1st, and that's the party president who's been here 10 years on February 1st.
Who is it?
Who is it? Me.
Oh.
I wanted to be sure. Boy, that was a quick 10 years. Yeah. Bill says to him, it feels like 20.
He's feeling a lot like it.
What's that? Let me see here. Does any member of the club have any announcements or anything they'd like to speak on today? Go ahead.
I'd just like to report with regards to the 3rd annual KW Trivia Challenge. Sales are moving along very well. We're up to about 15 tables now reserved for the evening, and it's Friday, March the 1st, and we'd still love to see teams come up and sign up. There seems to be a number of Rotarians that are interested in entering a team if they would only speak to one another, right? I know Ed, Maria, Mark. Paul wanted to, but he's going to be on a boat somewhere, right?
Yes, right.
So, bottom line is we're still looking for more tables. The early bird pricing is in effect until February 7th, so you still have another week to get the early bird pricing. And happy to announce that Swanson's Home Hardware has made a large donation to help us out with this event as well. So there might be some Kuradori prizes at the event. And that's all, thanks.
Thank you. Let me see. Bingo, February the 7th is Ed Simon, John Villamere, and that it? Yeah. Got that one right. 50-50. Last 4 numbers of your ticket are 8013. You are our first victim. It's me, Baz.
When you get called, I'll go for you. It's fruitless.
Thank you. 8018. Oh, that's me. Thanks, Ernie. And 7993.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah, that's right.
And the five rows. We were driving for $210, by the way. And with that, I will call on Bill to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Joe. So our speaker really today, Ernie Ginsler, doesn't really need an introduction, so I'm not going to give him one. I'm Ernie. I hope you'll excuse me. I'm taking some information off a profile on you on the internet. You know, the internet is a great thing. You can't hide. And so in this, Ernie, self-described retired community volunteer focusing on peace building, along with policy planning and capacity building, specializing in nonprofit governance, planning and evaluation, multi-sector community planning initiatives. And of course, Ernie is very involved in Rotary Club of Kitchener and has been on district boards and things like that. So let's give Ernie a nice hand today. John, we're reading the things.
I'll position myself here so that if I look wobbly up here, I have an inner ear thing going on. So I've got a bit of vertigo. So it's not that there was vodka in the, although, could somebody bring over my water glass?
Ernie, you want to share the lean on?
Yeah, fresh. It's okay.
No, the one with vodka.
Straight vodka.
Okay, Rotary and Peace. How many recognize this? If I tell you that it's in the current issue of the Rotarian magazine, and nobody recognizes it, this is probably not good. We have the foundation, now we need the buildings. This is Rotary saying that they put together the foundation for going ahead as peace as a major part of what Rotary is going to be doing into the future, in addition to what it's doing now. So, it wasn't until I was president-elect of my club and went to the Montreal International meeting that I had any idea that Rotary was involved in peace. And I'd been a Rotarian for a number of years before that. It never came up at the club. I probably didn't read the Rotarian magazine any more often than apparently anybody else in the group reads the Rotarian magazine. So I had no idea until plenary speakers started talking, and just about every plenary speaker talked about peace. So that's when I really first heard that we were involved in peace. It wasn't until more recently that I've come to understand that we are the longest serving, the largest international nonprofit peace organization in the world. That's something. That is really something. True or false? For the last 50 years, the death rate from armed conflicts worldwide has been steadily increasing.
I know the answer.
How many say true? How many say false? You're right. It's been decreasing. If I had my little laser thing, it would point up here, and it's a little fuzzy to read back there, but that stuff up there is World War I, World War II. This begins in the year 1400. So we're looking at a long time span. And this part here is what's most recent, and it's headed in the right direction. This is important to know, because if you talk to people on the street, and even if you talk to people who are involved, people believe that it's getting worse. There's more people in conflicts, there are more people dying in conflicts, they're just everywhere. The truth is that the everywhere that they are is in our cell phones. You can't get away from it. Peace sells, or rather death sells, because it draws us in. So we see more about death and conflict than we hear about peace instead of conflict. And it makes it our job much more difficult if we talk to non-Rotarians about peace, and they think it must be nuts. It's worse. It's always getting worse. We see it on TV all the time. It leads the news. It leads in the newspapers. It leads on TV. It leads on my cell phone constantly. A 100 years, 101 years of intentional peace involvement at Rotary International. That's a legacy. I don't read the slides. I figure you can read them at least as well as I can read them to you. There's something to be proud of, 101 years of peace. But it also means that we've got 101 years of experience in helping to build peace, and 101 years of commitment to peace. As Rotarians, we hear a lot about Polio Plus, and we should hear a lot about Polio Plus. And we're almost there. We're this far. 3 countries now. I think it's under a dozen new cases in the last year, so we're really almost there. And Rotary has started talking at the upper echelons. But what do we do after Polio Plus? Rotary International is a money-raising machine. And you never want to stop a fundraising, money-raising machine that's doing really well just because you've succeeded. So you have to find something else to do that's engaged in your mandate. And peace, it appears, is going to be at the top of the list. Rotary values, we've seen the 6 that come up in most issues of the Rotarian magazine. And the reason that Rotary funds what it does in developing countries is that if you don't have disease fighting, you can't have peace. If you don't have clean water, you're not going to have peace in that area. If you don't have education, you're not going to have peace. All of these things are necessary precursors to peace. It's why Rotary spends all that money on international endeavors. Rotary spends about $6.7 million a year on Rotary Peace Fellows in the 6 Rotary Peace Centers around the world. Not that long ago, a group of us were hoping that the 7th Rotary Peace Center might be at University of Waterloo. It turns out that the next 4 Rotary Peace Centers are not going to be in either North America or in Europe. They're going mostly to the Global South, which is understandable because really there's only one at this point in the Global South, and it's in Australia, so it's in a developed area. So they want to start working in other areas. So there isn't going to be a Rotary Peace Center at the University of Waterloo. So we decided to create one on our own. So a number of people have been meeting for the last 4 or 5 years to develop, in essence, what is going to be a Rotary Peace Center without the Rotary logo on it. It'll function similarly to a Rotary Peace Center. It's actually going to be broader than a Rotary Peace Center. The 6 centers focus either on international affairs or on peace and conflict studies. This one has at its core both peace and conflict studies and through global governance at Balsley Institute, international affairs. What the group of planners, and the group of planners are senior academics by and large from Balsley and from Conrad Graeber. What we've recognized, and a couple of Rotarians, what we've recognized is that peace building and peace learning is complex because conflict is complex. So you can't just know stuff about global governance. You can't just know stuff about peace and conflict. You need to know how things fit together. So we've developed, and what will be opening in September is the University of Waterloo graduate program in integrated peace. Broader than any of the current 6 Rotary Peace Centers. And you'll be able to graduate, if you attend, with a master's degree in one of those. And it's a graduate certificate in one of the others, so you blend the 2. Somebody was asking me about the Rotary Peace Scholarships that you helped to fund. You've been in this for coming up 6 years now. The 4 people, starting with the striped shirt on the left and going to the right, are the 4 recipients of the Rotary Peace Scholarships, 2 at Grable and 2 at Balsley. And they came to talk to the presidents of the 5 clubs in the cluster about what they're doing and what these scholarships that you helped to fund are doing. An interesting story came out from the young gentleman in the orange striped shirt. He had applied to Grable for entrance into the master's program in peace and conflict studies and was accepted. And the way you go through the process is once you're accepted, then you go to the Canadian consulates in Pakistan and apply for a student visa to get into Canada so you can study, and you show them that you've been accepted by Grable and you get the visa and all that sort of stuff. Except he showed them that he was accepted by Grable and they said no visa. It's hard to get here from Pakistan. So he went back to the city where he lives and he contacted Grable and said, thank you for saying I can attend, but I can't get there to attend. And at about that time, Grable was sending another letter to him saying that he had been awarded one of the Rotary Peace Scholarships that we all fund. So he had another piece of document. So he went back to the Canadian consulate and said, I've got one more piece of information here. I've been awarded a Rotary Peace Scholarship from the university. And he got a student visa. The only difference was Rotary. Without that scholarship, he'd still be in Pakistan, not learning here at Grable today. That's the power of Rotary. So it's a legitimate question. What happens when they graduate? Do they go to work in their field, or do they now have master's degree in something in which they can't be employed? So we've asked the two schools to let us know what the previous recipients and students who have graduated are now doing. Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat, cybersecurity, senior research, fiscal federalism and decentralization, global affairs Canada. Asia Pacific Foundation, doctoral work studying diverse worldviews and belief systems. You can't do peace if you don't understand the backgrounds and the ethical basis and cultural differences in the communities that you're talking about. International Organization for Migration, peace buildings in Southern Africa. These are students who graduate and become peace builders. There's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but you don't want to have a master's degree from Grable and be working at McDonald's. They're not working at McDonald's. They're out there doing the stuff that they learned how to do here, thanks to the scholarships that you helped to fund. Now, district has recently approved a new strategic plan, and for the first time, there's a peace committee. There's also objectives, measurable objectives in the plan. So, within the next 5 years, every club is a peace building club, and I'll get to what that means in a little bit. Every club contributes to Rotary Peace Scholarships at UW. Right now, it's the 5 clubs in our cluster. By 5 years from now, and we're guessing it's probably more like 3 years from now, there'll be, right now there are 49 clubs in the district. We want to see 49 clubs funding scholarships at University of Waterloo instead of 5. So we can have 10 times as many students on scholarship, 10 times as many students from around the world on scholarships funded by Rotarians in this district. District actively participates in the peace conferences, how many of you know that there are annual peace conferences sponsored by Rotary International? There are two, and they're good. So we want to make sure that our members know about them and are encouraged to attend. We want to do a video, and the district is going to become a peace building district. And underneath all of these are ways and means of doing it and what it means. There's something official called peace building district. So, peace builder clubs. We want every club to commit to a short list of activities and initiatives to act on their commitment rather to peace building. Because the committee is new, we don't have that list yet. We've had a first meeting to start to figure out what that list is going to be. And it can be different in each district. As a quick aside, I was asked by a Rotaractor whether Rotaract can be a peace builder club. Can you have peace builder Rotaract clubs? And in answering that question, which I couldn't do, so I sent it upstairs to RI, found out that in fact, peace builder clubs are not a part of the structure in the bylaws of Rotary International, which means that each district can figure out what it wants to do, or what it wants its clubs to do, to be peace builder clubs. So we're in the process of doing that. And finally, with peace, it begins with us. If we aren't engaged, if we aren't active, if we aren't recruiting people into Rotary who are interested in peace, then it's just a crapshoot. So I'm hoping that everybody in the district, everybody in this club, everybody in this cluster, everybody in every club in the district gets engaged with peace and peace building. There are all kinds of potential projects. It's not just for students. The club has to become involved in at least one peace building activity on an ongoing basis. And if we can do that with 50 clubs, then we can make a difference. And it doesn't have to be peace building somewhere else. We can do peace building in Canada. We can do peace building in Ontario. We can do peace building in Waterloo region. Thank you.
Yes, we do.
Are there any questions?
So Ernie, it strikes me, I have a little bit of knowledge on this, that anybody that graduates from one of those programs could work for almost any NGO in the world.
Yeah.
It opens a door to just about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The recipients of these scholarships, are they Canadian or do you look for international students?
They're both. Some of them are Canadian. The picture of the four, I think all of them are international. They may have moved to Canada at some point, but they were all born somewhere other than Canada.
If I have that, are they then encouraged to go back to their countries and use the knowledge that they gained here for peace in Africa or Pakistan or somewhere else, or they're free to go where they want to go?
They graduate, you no longer have any control over them. We encourage them to go back. Some of them want to get more education. Some of them get into something that they're really interested in, and it might send them to an international think tank somewhere, or to government here, like some of these are. There's one who was speaking last year, and I don't know whether she came to your club, But she wants to once she gets her master's in peace and conflict studies, she wants a law degree from Harvard, and then she's going to go back home, I think it was Zimbabwe, and wants to work in government there. So you get the whole mix of things.
Graham, I had the opportunity to speak to a couple of them. And this was at a function that was held at the Balsillie School recently. And that's their intent. They said they can't learn about anything that they're learning here in their country. And if they can come here and learn and actually see how the system, other systems work besides their own, they want to be able to take that back and influence things in their own countries with this.
That's good.
And that's what really impressed me about this.
I would encourage you in the future to bring one of these students here to speak to us.
You should be getting at least one a year.
We did.
The guy from Pakistan was here.
And the young lady was here not that long ago.
The gentleman there, he was here.
Yeah.
Question for you. You talked about peace building in our community in Ontario. Could you give some examples of how we can do that?
There's an initiative, and I forget what the name of it is, with I think it's St. Paul's University College. They have an Indigenous track there, and Rotarians from the district have been meeting with them for probably 2 years now to try to figure out how Rotary and the skills of Rotarians can work with Indigenous populations in Ontario to help them figure out and then figure out how to move to where they want to be in the future. And there is a fair bit of conflict, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, within Ontario. So that's one way of doing it.
And just to follow up on the 5.7 million international, which is almost equivalent to Mr. Trump's wall there. I mean, that's
No, that's billions.
Maybe we could.
Yeah, ours are millions, his is billions.
Billions, I don't know what he did. Could you give us some examples internationally of what we've done, like with the 5.7 million? Like,
well, the 5.7 million provides Rotary Peace Fellowships from Rotary International. There's 6 Rotary Peace Centers. There are, on average, 10 Rotary Peace Fellows in each of the 6, and they are on full scholarship for a 2-year program. And I think the scholarships average, well, by now it's probably about $85,000. So you start doing the math, and that has to come out, the outlay each year.
so it's primarily scholarships, right?
Yeah, it's scholarships, but it's full-way scholarships, so it's tuition, transportation, room and board, because if they're coming from somewhere else, there's no sense of giving them a scholarship if they can't afford to eat. So it has to be a full scholarship. So that's where the money goes.
John?
Ernie, I recall back, there was a 5-year commitment from the cluster clubs, and that's probably sunsetted now. So is there going to be a renewed ask, and what's the sustainability model?
We're working on that. And I have to go back and count and figure out whether we've done the 5th year or whether this July is the 5th year. What we're looking at is asking, because there are 100-person clubs and there are 12-people clubs, so we can't ask everybody for the same amount of money. So the model we're looking at is a per member contribution from each club. So we have to come up with a number. We don't want to be giving them less than they're getting just from the 5 clubs here. So we want to be able, from 49 clubs, to raise at least the $20,000 per year that they get from the 5. Do the math and figure out how likely it is that it's going to happen with everybody, and come figure out what that is in per member per club. So it'll probably be in the $20 to $25 per member per club level.
Oh, so you're using the 49 clubs just to raise like the 20,000?
More, no, as this would be the floor.
Yeah.
So that there are clubs that are willing to spend more than that.
Mhm.
But we'd like to have at least that much, at some level, and we haven't come to the final determination from every club. But of course, we'd encourage clubs to give more if they can.
Ernie, can you refresh the club on how many scholarships we've provided over the last 5 years?
Oh, we probably average, well, some of them are a one-term scholarship and some of them are a two-term scholarship. But in terms of individuals, we've probably averaged 4 to 5 a year for 5 years, so 25, 20 to 25. Possibly more than that because of half year.
Any other questions? John?
Was somebody else?
Troy said he was doing.
Oh, no, I just got asked by,
Oh, you go.
I was just filling in.
Taking care of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Tardy president didn't know all these things are there.
Everton already lined up the photographer.
Peace is it's a big thing, and it's neat to know that we've moved from disease eradication and going to a bigger picture of peace. And I think that's a great step for the club, and it was good to hear this in greater detail. I haven't received my Rotary magazine yet, and I think a couple others haven't, so that eventually
Mine's on my
new to us. But
office.
thanks for coming in, and thank you. We restored the eyesight of Muhammad in India in your name.
Well, thank you.
Sure. Gonna take another picture here.
Take another picture, stand aside.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Oh, that's deep.
Someone just asked me during.
And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, meeting adjourned. I would suspect that there's passes up here if you need them for parking.
Great job, Ernie. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Ernie.